Hello, everybody. My story, very normal people, VNP. As you have followed us and you have met new people, new experiences, and also new writers, people with different professions. And today we have a new one. His name is Andy, and he will tell us about himself and what he does. And also, if we have any question, we can write to him in person later. Welcome, Andy, in our show.
Thank you, Arthur. It's great to be here. And it's great to be under the umbrella of normality
No.
when I am the host of the podcast, The Neurotic Vaccine. So I appreciate that.
Depends what normal is for anybody. I was talking to
Absolutely.
somebody and he said,
It's
"Normal?
relative.
I'm
It's
I'm
relative.
I'm not normal." He said to me. I said, "Okay." He got it like
Gu-
different. But anyway,
Guess what?
so
Guess what, Arthur? Not
yes.
being normal is normal.
So Andy, tell us something about yourself.
Well, I should start off with a little explanation about the
Hmm.
backdrop that viewers may be seeing. This is a new comedy therapy podcast called The Neurotic Vaccine. Literally years in the making. I'm very excited about it. We now have the first season. All 8 episodes have dropped. People can check it out wherever they get their podcasts. And great guests, Jay Leno and Shark Tank's Mr. Wonderful Kevin O'Leary. I create pitches and create Shark Tank and so many great guests. Comic creator Cathy Guisewite, Jerry Mathers and Tony Dow. The final interview with the Leave It to Beaver actors, and I talk in therapy on that show about my family and how I could never compete with the ideal family that the Cleaver household was, and it's such a kick to combine that with a vignette about June and Ward Cleaver into the actual actors. There's so many moving parts in this podcast. I hope people check it out. We're getting a lot of great reviews all over the world, actually. So I'm really proud of that.
Hmm. So so is that the first dose or when people can get the vaccine in your show? Is it one, two dose? How many?
They're still working on it. See, this is basically this neurotic vaccine is the placebo effect for me. We're not sure it's working. My co-host therapist in the Upfront Therapy is trying to help make me immune to neurosis, hence the title. But I think ultimately, I think we should go for one shot, don't you, Arthur? Just a one shot deal. We don't need multiple shots. We let's. But you know what? It's funny. Some of the guests on the show were concerned that if they did, especially creative guests, if they did get the neurotic vaccine, would that kill their creativity? Would that be like a creative lobotomy? Maybe they want to keep their neurosis. So people have to, judge whether or not they want to take this thing once we perfect the neurotic vaccine.
There isn't anything like this that you cannot watch any YouTube show or you cannot
Oh,
go in any podcast if you don't have the vaccine. No, eh?
no, yeah, we're the only ones. This is it. We're the only ones. So line up, and you don't have to roll up your sleeves, but roll up your minds for our show. I think you really get a kick out of it. It's funny, and
Mhm.
there's insights and therapy for everybody. So
So
yeah,
when
so
you say
that's my thing.
Mhm.
Sure.
When you say for everybody, what ages usually you are how say it your target? Your target what age?
Well, I mean, obviously, I do skew towards the boomer category that I happen to be in. But no, funny, all ages. I just got a great email from a podcast journalist who's late 20s, early 30s, and he loves the show. So I mean, I think it's all ages. I really do. I make fun of people making fun of boomers on the show because that's on the subject of aging. In one of the episodes, I talked to Dr. K about these hey boomer cracks. When we were kids, we weren't going. hey, greatest generation, we had a little respect. But I also say, which was pretty therapeutic to say, they should call us boomerangs. Toss us away, we always come back.
Okay. So your podcast is just about humor. You let's say you confront anything, any problem in life, any ups and downs with humor, right?
Exactly, in the upfront therapy. Now there are some poignant moments. Even I talk about my parents who passed away a number of years ago, and relationships and then new relationships, dating websites, the insanity of that, the fear of moving, phobia about that, which I do have to an extent. So there are some serious underpinnings, but largely it's humor, and which can be very therapeutic in and of itself. And then we have CNN's Michael Smerconish on one episode, and we talk politics and all kinds of, and the power of rejection, which he opens up about how important rejection is in life, to learn about it. He actually gave a talk in a college commencement speech about being prepared for rejection. And he gave us an example of in his own life where he was on MSNBC substituting for Chris Matthews. And he really thought he had this job. It was his. And the boss finally said to him, you're doing a great job for Chris, but MSNBC is young, liberal, and nerdy, and you're none of those. So, and it hurt. And I said, can you imagine James Earl Jones, the voice of CNN? This is CNN coming on MSNBC, young, liberal, and nerdy. No, I can't really imagine that. But the lesson being, and the lesson in my book, which I'll talk about later, Banging My Head Against the Wall, A Comedy Writer's Guide to Seeing Stars, is about failure and dealing with it, and everybody goes through it. And it's therapeutic to hear through our show and read the book that whatever problems you may be having in life, it's just a snapshot in time. Deal with rejections, get stronger as a result of them, and move on. And that's with this Neurotic Vaccine podcast. It took years to get this going. I mean, it's just nothing's easy. But anyway, that's my long-winded answer.
Yeah. So, what is your favorite subject when you speak about bringing to your show? I mean, sorry,
Uh,
your podcast.
well, I think relationships, uh, dating was a great area to talk about, the dating websites. And there are quite a number of people go on those things now. And especially it was the case during the pandemic. And just the psychology and the early relationship and what that's like, and fearing the proverbial shoe dropping, and I talk about aiming for perfection. If the first date is perfect, then the next date's got to be even more perfect, or she'll be disappointed. Little neurotic interpretations of normal
Yeah.
things in life is what the show is all about. Uh, and what else? Well,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
isolation in society, and
Yeah. That's right.
loneliness,
Mhm.
growing older in a fun, light way. The latest episode, the finale, I talk all about oversharing on Facebook. Um, and we even present at the Facebook Oversharing Awards. I give a few awards out to Facebook oversharers. But it's funny, it's to talk about the oversharers on Facebook as I'm oversharing my life on my podcast. So, but that's a funny episode, the finale, episode 8. But yeah, all kinds of great. Cathy, comic creator Cathy Guisewite, has some great things to say, and it's. I'm really excited about the show. I hope listeners check it out.
Yeah. So, what about your book? Tell us a little bit about your book.
Well, it's called, and get ready for more product placement here, Banging My Head Against the Wall,
Okay.
a comedy writer's guide to seeing stars, foreword by Jay Leno.
Okay.
And this took 4 years.
Mm.
It came out in 2018, and I'm proud to say in 2019, the National Comedy Center in Lucille Ball's hometown, Jamestown, New York, acquired the book. Uh, and it's all about, the years from my first show business job, the Merv Griffin Show.
Mhm.
I interviewed all kinds of celebrities, Orson Welles and Laurence Olivier. I performed on the show. I was a nervous kid in the 80s, 20 in his 20s, starting out. And I land on this iconic show, and I'm interviewing all these big celebrities. We're traveling all over the world. I'm performing on the show. It was Showbiz University, incredible. And so it's about that, and then
Mhm.
my experience on Seinfeld, and all the episodes I pitched on Seinfeld that didn't land on the air that people can read about. There were some really funny ones,
Mhm.
and all the other creative challenges and projects. And I worked on Third Rock from the Sun and Cheers, and
Yeah.
um, anybody who is looking for a creative route would gain something from reading this book. There's a whole chapter on cartoons, but I've written for many cartoon panels, and I do that on the podcast too, where it's called Cartoon by You, where the listeners draw it in their heads as I explain the cartoon, and my co-host therapist analyzes the cartoon. So, but getting back to the book, so
Yeah.
many chapters of creative pursuits in Hollywood, and the title "Banging My Head Against the Wall" means there are a lot of pitfalls along the way. There, the power of rejection, which
Mhm.
Michael Smerconish on the podcast talks about being prepared for rejection. So it's all in the book, but so much fun stuff.
Mhm.
I hope people check that out too. Available on Amazon or wherever you get your books.
So what now? What is the I would say what happens after you bang your head against the wall?
Well, I'll let you know when I stop banging, Arthur.
You're still doing that,
I'm still doing it. My
huh?
head is hurting as we speak. Uh, uh, it always the little
There's
uh,
always something. There's always a new wall.
there's
Let's say, yeah.
always there's always something. You know what it reminds me of? There's an analogy I could use that we also do on the podcast, which is really fun. I'm
Mhm.
like a fighter in a boxing ring, and you get punched, and the bell rings, and you go back into your corner. Well, on the show, on the podcast, when we one of the signatures of the show is we I interview a guest, and then I'll transition out of that back into therapy, and I'm back with my therapist as if he's Burgess Meredith in Rocky. He's my trainer, and
Mhm.
I'm the fighter in life, and I'm talking about just what happened, and he's therapeutically trying to calm me down as we go back. So when we all experience these little bumps,
Mhm.
in life, we need to ring our own bell, go into the corner, regroup,
Mhm.
and get ready for the next round. I guess. I mean, boy, I'm really extending this metaphor as much as I can, but that's what I do. In answer to your question, Arthur, after I bang my head, I moan about it. I feel sorry for myself a little bit, and then I think, well, screw that.
Mhm.
That door closed, then this door will open. I mean,
Yeah. Exactly.
that happened a million times.
Yeah.
To show you how hungry I was from an early age, there's a big chapter in the book about guts. I stormed in on Lorne Michaels in Saturday Night Live. I arranged a phony meeting with Lorne Michaels in 1977. I was so hungry to get on the show that I took a train from Philadelphia to New York, and we arranged a phony meeting with him. This was in the days pre 9/11 where they weren't checking, your IDs and stuff.
Yeah.
And amazing guts to pull something like that off. So there's something driving all of us to have the courage to bypass fears And there's another thing that my therapist talks about in uh, the neurotic vaccine
Mm-hmm.
to avoid future catastrophizing. Don't
Mm-hmm.
look ahead. Your imagination, how your imagination conjures up worst case scenarios that may happen in your life, is always worse than what actually takes place.
Takes the place.
Which, boy, look at me going back and forth here, reminds me of a story in my book that I pitched on Seinfeld, where everybody discovers a life loophole. That's what I call it. And that is, and get this, listeners, uh, how often have you imagined something that you're dreading in the
Mm-hmm.
future? And when it happens, it's never identical to what you're imagining, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the secret to avoiding the worst case scenario that you fear will happen is imagining that worst case scenario in advance, and then it won't happen. So the stories for Seinfeld where everybody has something they're dreading, whether Kramer has a visit to the proctologist he's dreading or everything else, and they all imagine the worst case scenarios that would be played out in scenes, and then when the actual thing happens, it's never quite as bad. But with George Costanza, who I wrote the opposite for, where he decides to do the complete opposite of his instincts because nothing else was working, which came from my life. Uh, the worst case scenario is even worse than what George imagined. So that was the funny switch on it. But anyway,
Okay.
funny
Yeah.
you
Anyway.
should ask that question.
So, tell us a little bit about one day. What happens in one of your days?
Well, I tend to get up late and I go to bed late. I go to bed 2, 3 in the morning. I eat at ridiculously late hours.
Mm-hmm.
If I were living in Hawaii, which is 3 hours earlier, I think, my life would be normal. But it's amazing how I love dusk. Dusk is my favorite time of the day. If I could live on a planet that was dusk 24/7, that would be terrific for me. So I do, I guess I'm like a bat. I work late, I start late, I go into my home office and work on my computer on the podcast or fielding, trying to reach for guests, or I perform as a, vocalist, jazz vocalist and hand percussion. I'm booking gigs. So I'm my own one man band for much of the day. And there's so much energy that you have to invest in kind of dividing your time into all these pursuits. But that's the other problem that is worth talking about sometime on my podcast, and that is
Mm-hmm.
focusing. Focusing. That's something that people have difficulty doing, especially these days, where they're on the phone and another email comes in, or another text, or another ping,
Right, right.
and everybody wants your attention for things. So it's about focusing on the big task at hand, and creating and editing and doing everything with the show. It's just time consuming, but very creatively challenging and fulfilling.
Okay. So, what else do you want to share with our audience before I ask the last question?
Well, I'm just thinking in terms of your title, um, celebrate your abnormality. That's what I would say. It's normal to be a little off kilter. The little idiosyncrasies we all have are what makes us all unique. So the idea is to celebrate those within you, and not have to feel you are if you're different from other people. Everybody has a different path to success and a different rate at which they're succeeding. And everybody takes their own path, and you should take your own path and celebrate it along the way.
By the way, so that's what I explain at the moment. Very normal people, but I can change that. Nobody can say to me. I can make it very nerd people. I can say
Oh, yeah,
so.
yeah. Why don't you
It's
just
not.
say very neurotic people?
Yeah,
You can keep
exactly.
the end,
You
keep the
see,
end.
so that is like okay, just the initials. You never know what I can say.
That's
But
very
anyway,
good. I want
we
to cut.
prefer
I
to
want to
stay
cut.
in the normal people, normal one, okay? Normality, because it's very
Yes,
hard. You know what we used to say it was normal. Now it's like it's not anymore. You know, it's like it's too far. People are letting it, you know, and it's just taking another new normal, which they don't feel normal themselves. There's a problem, huh?
that's right. That's right. We're always hearing about the new normal,
Yeah,
which must be a message in and of itself that if things are always changing, then being normal isn't normal.
yeah, exactly. So, Andy, so the last word that you want to say, your message that you want to give to the world through
Well,
us.
my message is a selfish one, Arthur, I must admit, because I'm so excited about all the work and effort that went into the Neurotic Vaccine podcast and what's out there. These 8 episodes that have now dropped as of this week, this first season, with Jay Leno and Cathy Guisewite and Jerry Mathers and Tony Dow and comedian Curb Your Enthusiasm guest star Elon Gold and Shark Tank's Mr. Wonderful and CNN's Michael Smerconish and actress Marilu Henner. She shows off her superior memory, and I get to perform a writer's dream. I perform as Latka, and
Okay.
she as Nardo off of a Taxi first draft script that I wrote years ago. And so, a writer's dream. I get to perform it on the show with her, and actor comedian Fred Stoller. So many great moments on this show. Comedy departments, therapy, it's really a unique show. Check it out on iTunes. It's got tons of 5-star ratings, and they love us in Greece. They love us in
Mm.
Denmark. Check it out, and I'm really proud of it. I hope people enjoy it. And if you like it, please reach out. There are ways to reach out, and please rate and review too if you like it.
Yeah, I wanted to say that, but you said it so much. Me. Now there is no room for me anymore. You
I'm
understand
sorry.
now?
I'm
My me is
sorry.
not anymore there because your me is too big. You understand?
I'm sorry. Let's turn it into a you, Arthur. I want to
Yeah.
turn it into a
Look,
you.
I've heard your podcast, and it's really nice. Yeah, I really enjoy that, to be honest. Yeah.
Thank
Because
you very much.
I listen to other podcasts and also watch videos other channels, but there are things that and I I I hope you will have more, let's say, more views because you deserve more. Sure, yeah, you deserve more.
Yeah, it's different. It's different from most podcasts because what we do is we do things in real time and then
Yeah.
shape and add elements to those. So the whole thing is very smooth and
Mhm.
produced, extemporaneous yet produced. It's something that most podcasts don't have. So
Mhm.
the neurotic vaccine, I think people will enjoy it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Andy, for coming our show and sharing your experiences. Also, thank you for the book that you have written, so we can enjoy and also to bang our heads against your wall, maybe. Eh?
That's it. That's it. Thank you
Okay.
so much, Arthur.
Thank you. And guys, don't forget subscribe if you haven't done that, and also follow Andy.